Hello everybody and welcome back to another video on the channel. As of recording this, yesterday was an absolutely massive day in the AFL trade period. There was some absolutely ridiculously big deals going down left, right and centre. Today I just want to recap that a little bit, give my thoughts on each of the trades and who I thought won each of the trades. To be honest, I think it was honestly one of the biggest days of trading ever. It was certainly the biggest day of trading I can remember since watching footy back in 2015. Yeah, I really can't remember any other days where this many big deals went down. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into reviewing each of the trades. So the first trade that went down on the 10th of October was Toby Bedford moving from Melbourne to GWS. GWS obviously got Toby Bedford, and Melbourne in turn received pick 44 in this year's draft. This is definitely a good thing for GWS. They picked him up pretty cheaply, only having to give up a pick in the 40s. So I think he'll come in and replace Bobby Hill. Arguably, I'd say that he's actually a better player than Bobby Hill. It's just that he wasn't really getting a lot of games with Melbourne, and when he was getting games, it was generally as the medical sub, Bedford. But when he did play, I noticed he could kick a few pretty crafty goals. He's a good crumbing small forward. So yeah, I think it's a handy pickup for GWS. He won't be used as the medical sub as much. He should actually get games, and I think he'll show that he does have a few skills on the footy field. Melbourne, not too much of a loss. I feel like almost a bit of a win-win trade here. If I had to pick a winner though, I'd probably go with GWS. So for the first big name trade of yesterday's trading day, we have Luke Jackson, obviously moving from Melbourne to Fremantle. This was being reported on all year. It finally happened. Fremantle got Luke Jackson as well as pick 44 and 67 in this year's draft. In return for losing Luke Jackson, Melbourne got pick 13 as well as a future first rounder and a future second rounder. So I think this trade, obviously Fremantle got their man, so it's not going to be a loss for them. However, they did have to give up a fair bit to get him, obviously with that first round from this year as well as next year and a second rounder next year. He could be considered a little bit overpriced and overrated. However, he is only in his early 20s, and generally players like him, key position players and ruckman, take a little bit more time to develop. So the fact that he is this good already says that he could be like one of the best players, if not the best player in the competition in 4 or 5 years' time. So yeah, Luke Jackson. I think Fremantle. I don't think Melbourne lost out on this trade, considering how much they got in return. But at the same time, they do lose a pretty good player in Luke Jackson. So I'll say this is a win for Fremantle, but not like just a straightforward no-brainer win, because Luke Jackson could end up being a bust, since he is very young, and sometimes young players that show promise early don't live up to their hype and expectations. But I think Luke Jackson will continue to grow and become a very good player, one of the best in the competition. The next trade was Will Settlefield moving from Carlton to Essendon. Essendon got Will Settlefield alongside pick 68, while Carlton got a future 4th rounder. Carlton basically paid Essendon to take him. They just swapped out a 4th rounder this year for a 4th rounder next year, so I mean they didn't really get anything in return. So Essendon win this trade by default pretty much. I mean he's not a big loss for Carlton. He wasn't really doing a whole lot. He probably won't do a whole lot at Essendon, but they didn't really have to give up anything to get him. So yeah, this is a win for Essendon. Not much to say here. One of the smaller trades of the day. Now for a bit of a bigger name trade, we have Isaac Rankine moving from the Gold Coast Suns to the Adelaide Crows. Adelaide obviously got Isaac Rankine alongside pick 46 and a future 4th rounder. In return, Gold Coast Suns got pick 5, as well as a future 3rd rounder and a future 4th rounder. So Crows paid a big price to get him back in his home state. He's only young, so he's got potential to improve. Right now, based on current form, he definitely wouldn't be worth what they're giving up. However, he is a young player. He's shown that he's got the ability, and honestly, I think he has potential to become almost as good as a player like Eddie Betts. And I mean, how good would that be for Adelaide to have another superstar kicking goals from the pocket like Eddie Betts was a few years back? So yeah, Adelaide, I think it's probably a win-win for both clubs, this trade, considering how much Gold Coast got in return. Yeah, so Crows got a very good young player in Rankine, while Gold Coast got pick 5. Pick 5. That's a very big pick in this year's draft. Now they have pick 5 and 7, although that pick 7 looks likely to be going off to Geelong. But yeah, win-win for both clubs, I think, this trade. Well, here we go. This is the big one, the 4-club mega trade, which saw Jason Horne-Francis and Junior Rioli land at Port Adelaide, as well as GWS get pick 1. That's just sort of the cliff notes. I'll go through in a second the full detailed trade. It's going to be a lot to take in. If you haven't already seen it. But yeah, it's a very complicated trade. Let's have a go at explaining it. So North Melbourne, the first club involved in the trade, traded out Jason Horne-Francis, pick 1, and a 2023 3rd round pick. In return, they got picks number 2, 3, 40, 43, a 2023 future 1st round pick, and then Port Adelaide, they traded out picks number 8, 43, 53, 57, next year's 1st round pick and next year's 2nd round pick, as well as next year's 3rd round pick. In return, they got Jason Horne-Francis, Junior Rioli, a 2023 2nd round pick, and a 2023 future 3rd round pick. West Coast, they traded out Junior Rioli, picks number 2 and 40. In return, they got picks 8, 12, next year's 2nd round pick, and next year's 3rd round pick. GWS traded out picks 3, 12, a 2nd round pick next year. In return, they got picks number 1, 53, and 57. That's the big trade of the day, the one that's got everyone talking. Alright, so I'm just going to go through with now who I think won and lost out the trade. So the losers of the trade, I'd probably have to go with West Coast. They got rid of pick 2, as well as Junior Rioli, who was a pretty handy player for them. Look, I know they got pick 8 and 12 in return, but I don't know, getting rid of pick 2 for that, I don't know if it's worth it, especially considering they also got rid of one of their better forward line players. I don't know. I think they're definitely the losers of this trade. Next, I'd probably go with GWS. I don't think they lost out the trade. They did get pick 1. They also got rid of 3 and 12. Yeah, it was 3 and 12. Very hard to remember this one. So they got pick 1. Although pick 1 essentially becomes pick 2 because Brisbane are going to bid on Will Ashcroft. I don't think they lost it, but at the same time, they did get rid of a couple of first rounders. Or maybe they did lose it. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I think, GWS and West Coast were definitely a bit worse off in this deal. I mean, it's not catastrophic, obviously, but whatever. They clearly, GWS are looking to draft a specific player with their pick 1 that they think has a very bright and talented future. Port Adelaide, I think, definitely won out this trade. They got their their players in Jason Horne-Francis and Junior Rioli had to give up a fair bit to get him, such as their pick 8, although, I mean, look, Jason Horne-Francis was a number 1 pick, had an okay year this year. I think he's got, he can definitely improve a lot though. Yeah, and also North Melbourne, look, they got rid of a player that clearly didn't want to be on their list. They got in picks 2 and 3. They no longer have pick 1, but picks 2 and 3 I'd take over pick 1 any day, as well as a future first rounder as well. So yeah, so I think in order, probably I'd have to go with West Coast lost out this trade the most, then GWS, then Port Adelaide, then North Melbourne. I think North Melbourne, yeah, they got a lot of, well, and if they use those draft picks wisely, then yeah, they could get a lot out of this deal. But yeah, that's the biggest trade. Yeah, pretty hard to wrap your head around when you look at all of the details of the trade. Even when I was looking at it, it was pretty hard to make out who really won and lost because of just how many details there were. But yeah, that's it for that trade. So anyway, guys, that will wrap up today's video. Hope you did enjoy. It was a very big day of trades yesterday. If you would like to share your thoughts on any of the trades, then please let me know in the comments below. Yeah, especially the big 4 club mega deal that went down. That was a crazy one. Give us your thoughts on who you thought won and lost that deal. But that'll be it for the video, and as always, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.